This week's Parsha, Parshas Behar Bechukosai, Shabbos Chazak. First I want to apologize that we held some of them here half hour late. We usually begin at 10 o'clock. Tonight we began at 10:30. Baruch Hashem, we had the schus of having the Leitzke Rebbe at our home tonight. And we try to get the word out as much as we can that we're starting at 10:30. Beginning of this week's Parsha, Parshas Behar, the Pasuk says, V'lo yistainu ish es hamisa. One should not aggrieve your fellow man. There's a prohibition on oinos devarim, on hurting a person with words, and generally we wouldn't know it. The Torah has to tell us that you're not allowed to hurt someone with words, in other words, causing pain to other people with words. It's asur. That's what the Torah says. What is oinos devarim? In the first place we look, the Gemara in Bava Metzia Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis says, and it says, what is oinos devarim? It gives three examples. The examples the Gemara gives is, first of all, you cannot walk into a merchant, you cannot walk into a store and say to the store owner, how much does this cost, how much does this cost, how much does that cost? Ask questions about the merchandise if you really, in your mind, have no intention of buying merchandise. That's called oinos devarim. The second example the Gemara gives is that you're not supposed to say to a Baal Tshuva that, remember the deeds of your past, remember your past deeds. You're not supposed to say that to a Baal Tshuva. The third example the Gemara gives is that to never say to a ger, remember the deeds of your ancestors. Remember what your father, your grandfather, you're not supposed to say that to a ger. That's what the Gemara says oinos devarim is. The Sefer HaChinuch explains it a little further. Sefer HaChinuch says that there's an isser to oppress a person with words, and every case is different. Every person has to know, in every situation, you are not allowed to hurt a person with words. And Zok the Sefer HaChinuch, that even applies to your own children. Even to children, unless you have a serious reason, for chinuch reasons, that you have to say something hurtful to a child, the Sefer HaChinuch says you're not allowed to hurt your own children, or any child. You're not allowed to say that. The Gemara in Bava Metzia, on the next daf, the daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph says, when it ends off this thing of oinos devarim, he says something very interesting. That a person has to be very careful, especially with the words that he says to his wife. Okay, we all know that. You have to be careful what you say to your wife. And I know the owner of the store's wife is standing right back here. She can't be in the video, but she's standing back here and she's listening very intently right now. But since tears come very easily, there's a Gemara I'm telling you. I'm not telling you Chasid Shemaisis. I'm not telling you. The Gemara says, since the tears of a wife come easily, it's especially important that you're careful in the words that you say to your wife. So Rav Pam, on this Gemara, Rav Pam Zatzal says a very beautiful idea. He says it's an amazing thing, and it's ironic, and many of us know people like this, that they pride themselves on being gentlemen, on having manners, and when you see them with strangers, they're extreme gentlemen. Yet, when you see them with their own immediate family, sometimes you just want to run the other way. And Rav Pam said it's an amazing thing. It's ironic. People are gentlemen. Their manners are impeccable. But you go to their own, when they're in their own circles, when they're with their own people, and especially with the people closest to them, with their own family, it's scary. It's scary. They're out of hand. You're just embarrassed to watch them. And he says the halacha says that you have to treat each person, and it's brought down in Yeridea, it's in Reish Nun Aleph, that every person, you have to treat each person, there's halacha, you have to treat every person with respect. And even goyim, you have to treat goyim with respect. Yet the halacha says that when it goes in the order of chesed, who do you give tzedakah to first, and who do you have to be nicest to first? The halacha says that you start with the closest person to you, your immediate family, and it works itself out in a ripple effect. It works itself out that way. And if you take a look at the nature of people, unfortunately, many times it's the other way. People are very careful and very generous with people that are very, very far on the outside. Some far-flung yeshiva in Russia, in Eretz Yisrael, and Chas v'Shalom, I'm not saying that these are not important things, but when it comes to their own family, all of a sudden there's not so much covenant involved in supporting spiritually and financially your own family. So people turn it around and they have it all backwards. And he says and people end up causing emotional pain and emotional scars to people in their own family. Or Rapam says, Lamaisa, he says this is not a matter of manners or etiquette. He said these are mamish halachas that when people are over, these are isurim de oraisa that there are oinshim for, and people don't realize, but olam hazeh and olam haba, that you're not allowed to hurt somebody that's close to you, you're not allowed to hurt someone in your family. There's an unbelievable story. The Gemara in Ksubas, Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph, says a very interesting story on this point. It says Rav Rechumi would spend long periods of time studying in the yeshiva of Rava in Mechuzah. And he would learn, he would sit, he would steig, and every year he would come home on Erev Yom Kippur. One year, Rav Rechumi, the Gemara says, was so engrossed in his studies, in his learning, that he forgot to come home. Could happen, right? He forgot to come home. He wasn't there. And it comes to Erev Yom Kippur, his wife is sitting there, and she's waiting for him, and she kept saying, soon he's going to come home, soon he's going to come home, soon he's going to come home. And he didn't show up. The Gemara says that Rav Rechumi's wife was upset, and she got dejected, and a tear ran down her face. She was sad, she was upset. At that time, the Gemara says, Rav Rechumi was sitting on a roof in Mechuzah by the yeshiva. He was sitting on a roof learning, and the minute his wife shed a tear, the roof collapsed, and Rav Rechumi went down with it, and he was nifter. And that's what happened. Frekt Reb Chaim Shmulevitz on this Gemara. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz asks an unbelievable kasha. Rav Rechumi's wife was upset, she was sad that he didn't come home. So how exactly did this help her that the roof caved in and Rav Rechumi was nifter? If she was just pained by the fact that he wasn't home, how much more would it have hurt her? How much more did it actually hurt her that Rav Chumi was now nifter? He wasn't around anymore. How does that help? Zok Reb Chaim, an unbelievable, Reb Chaim Shalev says, an unbelievable yesod, and something that we all have to remember. He says that hurting someone's feelings is not, it's not like doing something else wrong. He said that's called, Zok Reb Chaim, it's called playing with fire. When someone puts his hand in a fire and gets his hand in a fire and he gets burnt, is the burn a punishment for putting your hand in the fire? No, the burn is not a punishment for putting your hand in the fire. The burn is a result of putting your hand in your fire. It's not a punishment. If it's by mistake, it's only, but if you put your hand in a fire, you're going to get burnt. It's a result. He says, when somebody gets punished, when someone does something to someone, even inadvertently sometimes, and you hurt another person, the result is, Reb Chaim, that unfortunately something bad could happen to you. You're playing with fire, and the person has to know just how serious it is to treat, how serious it is when, Chas v'Shalom, it'll happen a situation that you hurt somebody. A person has to be very worried, and a person has to be conscious to always treat the people everywhere with respect, especially those that the halacha tells us, which it's even harder to do. Sometimes, family guy, you're getting on my nerves already. Every day I see a cousin, a family, they're always asking me for money. But the bottom line is, they're the people that you're supposed to treat with respect first. And how careful we have to be, chas v'shalom, never ever to hurt someone's feelings. And that's what the pasuk says over here. That a person has to be very careful, never to hurt someone else. And what better time is there to concentrate on this? Now we're coming to the end of Sfiras HaOmer, an end of time where people have to, where this time of the year is mesugal to work. We all know what happened to the 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. It's a time of the year that is mesugal to us to be conscious, to think about it, to want to work on it, to want to look around and say, maybe I didn't treat the people in my family. Maybe I didn't treat my children. Maybe I didn't treat my people that work with me. Maybe I didn't treat the person who owns the store. Maybe I didn't treat the person behind the counter so well. Now's the time to be conscious of it and to think. And b'schus this, we should talk to Yizoicha to have the unbelievable schar of somebody who's conscious of Beinot L'Chavere and somebody that treats all other human beings with respect. Go ahead, the Shabbos.
I'm in the store.